Hey everyone, I'm Crystal Jigrup, and this is Empowered by Women. In August of 2021, I launched Book of Bijou, which is a line of chic and innovative jewelry storage. And in January of 2022, we expanded into what you now see as the Empowered by Women platform. I really wanted to create a centralized space where we can really put emphasis on our mission of women empowerment and community over competition. It really truly does fill my cup to be surrounded by so many of you inspiring women, and the energy that you bring to me and our platform on a daily basis is unmatched. You really all do fuel me with so much motivation to continue doing what I'm doing, and for that, I thank you. Before we jump into the episode, please be sure to follow or subscribe to us wherever you are listening, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on your favorite podcast platform. And also don't forget to share your favorite episodes with your fellow female founders so that we can continue growing our platform and furthering our mission. All right, let's go ahead and jump into this next interview with another incredible woman in entrepreneurship that I know you guys are going to absolutely love. Today, we have the incredible Sam Morrison Wilson. She is the founder and community host for an online women's community called SafeHeartConnections. Obviously, I'm very excited to dive into this conversation because I myself am the host of the Empowered by Women community, and I am all about community. I'm all about celebrating women. And something that I really, really love about what Sam does is that she really puts an emphasis on the fact that self-care is not selfish. And that is something that I try to preach heavily as well. So I'm super excited to get her take on everything and have her share her insights. So Sam, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So first of all, where are you joining us from?
I am in the Central Texas area.
Okay, so another US-based woman, which we love to hear. It's closer connected with us. I mean, obviously, we love that our podcast is now global. But great to hear that you are somewhat near us. But we were just talking before we hit that record button, and oh my gosh, she's dealing with natural disasters that I don't even want to fathom in my own life. So let's all,
Yeah,
everyone that's listening, everyone that's viewing, just wish her all the safety. But Sam,
sure.
we're gonna
Thank
make it
you.
through without all of that. Okay.
Oh,
So
yeah.
so let's just start off by you telling us a little bit about your background and how
Yeah.
that has led to Safe Heart Connections, and then also just dive into what that is.
Yeah. Thank you. So what happened was life, and going through life, just making the best decisions that I could with the information that I had. And I recognized after being married and divorced multiple times, and that each one of those situations got worse, that there was one common factor in the chaos, and it was me. And the last marriage, unfortunately, was abusive. And I was able, I got out alive, right? And a lot of women don't. And so I have a heart for connecting with women that not necessarily have gone through abuse, but just life has got them, right? Um, that things haven't turned out the way that they thought they would. And sometimes they feel alone or overwhelmed. And I also have found the same type of issues with successful women that are coaches, people like you and me that lead groups or we're coaching in some way. And we forget to put ourselves first because we're taking care of everybody else. And so March 8th of 2015 was the day I drew the line in the sand, and I said, I'm going to fight for me. This is not working. I'm, excuse me, I didn't know what healing looked like for me. But what it came down to was I recognized that I didn't love myself. Not only did I not love myself, but I really didn't like myself. I wasn't super attached to being alive. And I shared that with my mom a few years ago, and the look on her face. I was known as the smile girl. Like that was me. I was known for smiling and writing smile before it was cool. I don't know if it was ever really cool, but I kind of made it cool. And so just to see the look, like nobody had any clue. Because I put on a front that everything was okay when truly it wasn't. And so I started this healing journey. I've done some immersion trainings. I've done some individual coaching. I've done weekly accountability things, and it has gotten me to the place of I've created this life of self-love. I felt like I was all alone. I felt completely overwhelmed. I didn't know what I was going to do. When I got divorced, I didn't have a job. I had not ever financially taken care of myself on my own. I didn't know if I could do it because I had gone from one situation to another. And I was terrified, but you know what? I did it. I did it. And we as women are stronger than we even know, especially when we come together. And so on my healing journey, what I recognized sooner than later, because I started Safe Heart Connections about 8.5 years ago, before I even really realized what it was going to be. I started having monthly meetups where we just got together and talked. We would get together and just talk over dinner and build community. And then now it's actually grown to this online community of women that's worldwide. Like you said, your podcast is worldwide. And it's so amazing how the technology has worked. COVID was the thing. And it really forced me to make a decision of not doing things locally and trying to create community online. So I've dug in and learned how to do that. And it's been really amazing. So now in the past, I would say that Safe Heart Connections was an online community group for women that have identified one or more areas that they want to work on and improve their life while making connections along the way. And that's still very true. However, in the last 6 months or so, I've really identified that if you don't love yourself first, you can try and make all the changes you want and they're not going to stick. And so that I've shifted the whole focus of the community. Yes, we're still working on one thing at a time, and it's different for everybody, but the foundation of the group is helping them learn to love themselves more fully, and then they get to start doing the other stuff. So I've created a free self-love mini series within the community. Every woman that joins gets to go through that completely for free. There's a self-love assessment that they take. They get feedback from me. That base of that community will always be free. I want women that if they can have the courage to step in and say, I'm ready to do something different, I want them to be able to do that. There is a paid academy for some of the women. It's going to make more sense to continue to dig in a little bit more. But the feedback from the free community is amazing. The women are loving it.
That's amazing. I really need to dive into this. I just love what you're doing, and I think it's so needed and so special. And for you to be able to create that, and like you said, like you didn't know what it was going to be, but you just wanted to create that safe space and to see how it has now impacted people all across the globe is something that I'm sure is so incredible to witness.
Yeah. It feels bigger than me. It's like the fact that I get to participate in this. Something as simple as when the women go through the self-love mini series, I ask them to give me their biggest takeaway. And one of the women, and my community is a little bit older, not necessarily, I mean, I would say mid-30s to, we have some people in their 70s and 80s even online.
Mm.
And one of the women that was on the little bit older age said that she learned that it was okay to take care of herself without feeling selfish. What if she had learned that earlier in life?
Mm-hmm.
How would her life have looked different? And so the connections piece, I called it Safe Heart Connections from the very beginning. And I knew I wanted the heart connections between the women and the community. And now I say that we're building a band of sisters. You hear people talking about band of brothers that have gone to war and they've fought together, and they are their family, right? They're the band of brothers. Well, we can create a band of sisters too. And it's not the same kind of war, but we're learning to fight for ourselves, right? To put ourselves first. But I also host these micro interviews within the community. And that's allowing the women to get connected to other people, other women in the world that might help them at some level. And that's another form of connection that I never saw coming. I was like, I know that the women are getting a lot of good things in the community, but sometimes what happens, and you may have experienced this in your community as well, that someone starts on this healing journey or start to figure some things out and they recognize, oh, I need something more or different. Maybe somebody wants to look at changing careers and they need a career coach or somebody to help with their resume, or they want a more, like, I'm not a coach. I kind of am a coach, but I don't present myself as a coach. I'm not a therapist, not a counselor. Right. And so I want to be seen as the community host where I share information, I make connections, I guide these women to help them learn how to create that life of self-love. And if and when they need something more, I want to be able to help connect them to other great women. And it's a really cool part of what I get to do.
Yeah, I love that you said that you get to participate in it and you're not
Yeah.
really taking that role of like the ownership, like this is my business, but it's something that you really get to be fully present in on the day-to-day basis and be
Yes.
able to see those connections form and the transformations happen. It's amazing. And I think that that's what's so special about community, because you do really, it's a different energy and it's just something so special. And I think I like what you said, where you're allowing them that space to share, and you're doing these micro interviews and you're giving them that platform to share their story. Because oftentimes I think, especially as women, we feel like our voice is not worthy of being heard. We don't want to take up space, right? We don't want to be seen as like complaining about the things that we've gone through, the things that we have. But being able to share our story, that is the purest way to be able to connect with another person. And then for other people to recognize and to hear that story and say, wow, she's going through the same thing that I'm going through. Maybe it is okay for me to open up. Maybe it is okay for me to share my story. Maybe it is okay for me to take up space.
Okay, I know you're all well invested into this episode so far, but I wanted to just take a quick moment to tell you all about Cast Magic, because this tool has been a lifesaver for me and the Empowered by Women podcast. And we don't like to gatekeep around here, okay? So if you also have a podcast, a YouTube channel, or really produce any kind of long form content, you really need to introduce Cast Magic into your life if you haven't already. It used to take me forever to find specific clips, create captions and titles and descriptions, and all the things that come with running a podcast, but Cast Magic has made that 10 times easier for me. And as a mom with a very busy schedule, I am all about simplifying and streamlining my to-do list. So seriously, save yourself some time and even multiply your usable content and download it ASAP. The link will be included in the show notes, but let's go ahead and get back to this awesome interview.
Not only is it okay, but it's important,
Mhm.
because the people in my journey that made the biggest impact, if they hadn't taken the time to stand up and raise their hand and share, I might not have gotten what I needed. One of the first trainings I went through was an immersion thing, and it was co-ed, where we were in a training. It was an intensive, like all weekend, and we stayed at a hotel and we had buddies. It was like this whole thing. And one of the gentlemen came up to me after one of the sessions. We're just walking in the hall. And he's like, Sam, I see something in you. Is it okay for me to share? And I'm like, sure. And he happened to be a pastor. And this was not a religious event at all. There were Christians there. But it wasn't a religious thing. And just it's important to know that he was a pastor for this to really kind of make sense. He said, I see that you really love God and you love people, but you forgot the last two words of that scripture, as yourself. And that was the moment back in 2015 when I realized, oh, I don't love myself. And that's when the healing began. What if he hadn't have said that to me? I truly believe that God would have got it to me at some point, but who knows when.
Right.
So
Right.
sharing your story, if you see something in someone, ask for permission. Don't just go, don't suggest giving feedback without permission. Ask to share. And if they're open to it, share. Because you never know what one thing that is said to somebody that could totally change their life.
I like that. I like that point of asking for permission before you start sharing, because I feel like, especially in this entrepreneurial world, a lot of it can be seen as taboo when you're just coming from like a genuinely good place and you're trying to help another fellow entrepreneur out and giving your suggestions, but at the same
Hmm.
time, they might not receive it the way that you intended it to be received.
Right.
So
Yeah.
allowing that buffer of, is it okay if I share something with you? And leaving it up to them to decide whether or not they're going to receive it. I think that's a key
Yeah.
piece that I'm
And
glad that you
if they say no, zip it.
shared.
If it'll probably sit with them for a little while, and if they trust you and they have that relationship, I think a lot of times we try and give feedback to people that we have no business giving feedback to. We don't know enough about them,
Mhm.
right? We see one little snippet of something and we think that describes their life, or we see a mom that may be handling a situation with their kiddos in a way that we wouldn't do. So we start to should on them. And
Mhm.
that's not helpful for anybody. Instead of maybe asking, hey, can I help you with this situation? Looks like you're having a little bit of a hard time. What can I do to help? Instead of placing judgment and saying stuff. So I think that if we come from a place of truly helping and kindness and generosity and grace, because most of the time there's something going on in somebody's life that we have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really important layer to it. Even though you are coming from a really great place and from a place of service, it's the delivery matters a
Hmm.
ton. While you were
Yeah.
talking just a few minutes ago, you answered a question that I wanted to come back to, but I was going to dive into like, was there like some kind of catalyst in your journey that made you say, okay, now I'm going to start fighting for myself?
Yeah.
So it seems like it's
Yeah.
a pastor that did that for
Well,
you.
that was actually the second step. March 8th of 2015, I actually um I knew I was going to be getting divorced again, and I was crushed. I really thought that when I got married to that man, that it was going to be my forever. I really did. And we had the perfect life. Like I had everything I wanted. He was exactly what I mean, we had the life that I wanted until we didn't. And it was like a light switch just went bloop off, and there was no way to turn it back on. And when I recognized that I was going to get divorced again, I just decided that something had to be done, and it had to start with me. And so I started researching some things that I could do, and I started doing some studies that led to the healing. That was March 8th. I actually moved out of, we filed for divorce in April. I was finally able to move out in July. It's a really bad idea. Ladies, if you're listening, if you know you're getting divorced, get out sooner than later. What I did, if any woman were to tell me that they were gonna do, oh, I need to stay because of this. Nope. Nope. You need to go. It's not worth it. I was running a business and we had a bunch of inventory there and I couldn't get it moved. And so I'm like, oh, I need to wait. I moved my son out in April so he could finish. He was a senior in high school, and he moved in and lived with some friends. So he wasn't there. And my son, that's been however many years, almost 10 years now. My son, grown, is still mad at me. We've made amends, but he's upset that I took care of him, but I didn't take care of me. And so even though I had started that journey, I didn't move out till July. My first healing training started in September of 2015. And it's just been a ride ever since then. So the pastor was step two. Step one was me recognizing, oh crap, this is happening. And it's me. Yes, my husband was abusive. I chose him. And I had to own that part of the responsibility. I wasn't responsible for what he did, but I could work on me to not ever make that kind of choice again. And spoiler alert, I got remarried last year, and I have the best marriage. I have a husband that I love. He adores me. He is absolutely 100% not perfect, and neither am I. And we have like the life. We've been together 3 years, and even when things go bad or wrong, I know I can depend on him and I can trust him. We actually were having we decided to wait and take our honeymoon trip on our 1 year anniversary, which was last week. And we did. The day before we left, he got fired from his job. Shocked, completely shocked. And in past situations, any little tiny bit of chaos would cause everything to spin up and get completely sideways. We had the best time. We had the absolute best time. It was a great trip. We went to Orange Beach, Alabama, sat in the water, we had a great time. And that's only because I truly believe that's only because I've learned to create a life of self-love that takes care of me first so that I can also take care of him. Because if I don't take care of the analogy that I use that might be helpful just for a vision for the people watching is imagine you have a coffee cup that's sitting on a saucer. And people talk about how you can't pour from an empty cup, which is 100% true. But I like to help the women. I like to work with the women to help them learn how to keep their cup so full that it overflows to the saucer. So when they give in some kind, generous, loving ways, it's from the overflow that sits on that saucer and it doesn't deplete their cup at all. That's creating a life of self-love.
Oh, I love that vision. I love that imagery that you just shared with us. And first of all, congratulations to you.
Thank
I
you.
love that for you. That is
Yeah.
amazing. And I was actually going to dive into that and ask you, after your journey in this figuring out how to love yourself, how have
Yeah.
transforms the relationships around you? Have you been able to see that
Wow. Yeah.
transformation? It
Yeah.
seems like you have.
I have, but there was another layer. I had done all this healing and I didn't date almost for 4 years at all. Um, and when I did start dating, I recognized that I was still making some of the same choices. It wasn't the same. They were better, but they still weren't great. And I got connected to a relationship coach in probably January of 2021. And I was in a situation again. I thought, how is it that I am so smart and I've done all this healing and I can get stuff done and I still keep picking these guys that aren't a good fit for me. They're not necessarily bad. I don't want to say that men are bad. I am not a man hater. And I know that the people I was choosing weren't a good fit. And I'm like, how can this keep happening to me? And so I got connected to this relationship coach and we started working together. And I found out that what the situation was is because of all the past hurts, I was still showing up in a very masculine, dominant way. And so a real man wasn't man like that. There's my relationship coach describes it that there's boys, men, and guys. Little boys are the ones that are attracted to a masculine female. And a real man, based on his definition, would not be. And so I started coaching with him and learning how to show up in my feminine. It didn't change who I was. It just allowed me to soften and to be who was designed to be in the beginning, but I had shut all that off because I was scared. I was afraid I was going to be hurt or taken advantage of and all those things. And when I learned to show up in my true feminine, and I still have to do masculine things. I own 2 companies. I get stuff done. But when I met my now husband, it was probably 6 weeks before he even knew I owned 1 company, much less 2. They don't care. They don't want to know about that. They want to, it doesn't matter to them. And before, I would literally start by talking about how cool I was, what I had done, created from scratch, had all these people working for me. They don't want to be in competition. They want to be a partner. And so my relationship coach actually lives out in LA. And when we got married, he flew into Texas, he and his wife. And my dad is a pastor. And my dad and my relationship coach are the one that married us. So it was amazing. So
I love that that you shared about the masculine and the feminine. And I think
Yeah.
you were diving into it already, where the masculine kind of took over as almost like this protective shield, right? But then as you started to practice all of these self-love things, then you realize you can let your guard down a little bit, and you
Yes.
don't have to be so masculine up front, as a way of making sure everything was in order and taking care of yourself in that regard. So I'm so glad
Yeah.
you shared that. I want to
Yeah.
pivot back to the community that you've built.
Sure.
And obviously, that's something that I'm very passionate about, because Empowered by Women, we have an incredible community of women in business. And I think what I've seen is that there are so many women that don't recognize that there is a community out there for them. So, do you have
Mm.
any insights that you can share in regards to how can they find a community that fits them, or how can they even
Yeah.
build a community so that,
Yeah.
they really feel like
Yeah.
they
That's a great
belong?
question. If for business owners, women that own businesses, most of the ones that I know, unless they're brick and mortar type, and even with brick and mortar, it can happen. There is a community. If you look at all your ideal clients, there's a few things in common that they would have, right? And so create a community around that commonality, or just something you're passionate about. Because one of the best things that I've done in my healing journey is put myself in positions to remind myself that I'm not alone. Most of the time when I've gotten in trouble in my life, it's whenever I did stuff because I thought I was all alone, nobody else would understand. And when I have a core group of people, men or women around me that I can trust and have those real conversations with, it's just a game changer. I mean, life is gonna happen. We had something in our family happen the day before yesterday. Didn't see coming, a car accident that killed one of our family members, and complete shock. And who are you gonna, if you had a phone call that was tragic like that, or even not tragic, but just some really bad news, like my husband getting fired, um, who are you gonna call and talk to? Think about who you want in your corner when those things happen, and start to build that community around that. And if you're not the one to build the community, start looking for the characteristics in other women that you know and you respect, and say, hey, I see this in you. And first of all, they'll be flattered, and they'll be really thankful. They may not even know what to say. They may be like, oh, I didn't even like, they may not know what to say, right? But ask them, what community are you in? Are you part of a mastermind? Are you part of a something where you get fed? Are you emotionally or spiritually or professionally? And ask them, because if you see something in them, they're probably tied to a bigger group. And start to do that.
That's a great tip. I haven't heard that one yet, but I really, really love that one, because it also takes the pressure off you having to find those communities yourself, right? You're already starting to get other people involved, and that's already kind of chipping away at the fact that you really aren't alone. There are people
Yeah.
that you can reach out to. So that's such a great tip. I think, do you have any like words of encouragement for people that have tried, but they feel like they still can't quite find their people?
Yeah, I have often considered myself the odd duck. I mean, look at my background. I mean, but if I'm going to look at this all day long on the screen, I want to be happy. And on yours, you've got, looks like your spouse and your kiddo or partner and whatever. And so you want your surroundings to relate who you are. And my husband says it looks like a hippie lives in my office. I'm like, love it. I think that once you start to really own who you are, be true to who you are, and not trying to fit in the box that the world has told you had to fit in, then you can start to really find your people. Um, I have the best, before I started my healing journey, I hardly had any female friends. I did not like women. I thought they were catty and judgmental and harsh, and they were competing with me and they were going to take my man. Well, based on what I know now, they could have had him, but that's a different story. And so now the fact, number one, that God's called me to work with women is hilarious. And I have some of the best female friends ever, like people that I don't like the term ride or die. And I also know that if anything happened to me, I know I have women in my community, my corner, that I could pick up the phone and they would be there in a heartbeat. And being able to do that is only, I believe, possible because I am 100% okay with who I am. Because the rest of the time, if you're trying to pretend, you may have acquaintances, but you're never going to get heart level to where they really know you.
I could not agree more. And that is something that's in the message that I try to communicate frequently. So I resonate with everything that you just said so much. And I'm so glad that you reiterated it today because it's true. The way that you show up as you are, as yourself, and truly authentic and honoring your opinions and your interests and your values and being able to share that out loud, that is how people are going to be like, wow, we have so much in common. Like, that's my person. But if you're showing up as this other person that might not share all of those same values, those same ideals, those same interests,
Yeah.
then you're going to be attracting the people of this faux persona that you're portraying out into the world. And then you're
Yeah.
going to be stuck feeling like unfulfilled, not having that heart connection, as you said. So that was such a great reminder to end this on. Did you have something else that you wanted to add?
I was just gonna say, yesterday I posted on Facebook because I'm working on a video for Safe Heart Connections to help the women that are new get to know me. And so I asked the people that I engage with the most and said, what am I known for? When you think of me, what am I known for? And there was I was crying. It was so much better than I could have thought. But one of the gentlemen actually said, for my unique balance of intelligence and whimsy. And I'm like, yeah, he got
I
it.
love that.
I love it.
Whimsy
I
is
love
definitely
it.
a word I would have used with the
Yeah,
background that you have going on there.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. So thank you for having me today. And if I can ever do anything to help you or any of the women in your community, I would totally be honored.
Oh my gosh, Sam, this is just the start of our journey together. Where can everyone connect with you, find your community, learn
Yep.
more about you, get in touch? Where can they find you?
So my website, SafeHeartConnections.com. And when you go there, there says join the free community. My community is on Skool, Skool now. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's a platform. I moved everything there a few months ago. It's best decision I've made for my community, for lots of different reasons. But if you go to SafeHeartConnections.com and click through, it'll take you there. And I have a couple of events happening every year. Two are virtual summits. One is actually starting, I don't know when this will show, but one's actually starting on Saturday. It'll be going for the whole month of June though. I also do an in-person retreat once a year, and I do a virtual retreat in the fall. It's not a summit, it's not a bunch of learning, it's actually coming to participate, to dig in, build community, and do something that can create life change. Only it's virtual and it's really cool.
That sounds amazing. I haven't heard anything like that. A
Yeah.
virtual retreat. I'm gonna have to dive into that. So your episode will be, I think, probably in July. So I know you said you have a summit in June, so it'll be passed by the time this is live. Do you have another summit?
No, no, the next thing will actually be the retreat in the fall.
Okay, no worries at
Yeah,
all. Well, Sam, you have been incredible. I really am excited to dive more into our connection and to see what we can do together because I think there's so much potential there. I really, really love what you are doing and the impact that you are having on I don't know, thousands of women's lives, potentially creeping up to the millions, which I wouldn't be
Yeah,
surprised. Thank you so much
thank
for being
you.
here today.
Thank you. I'm glad I could.
Another incredible interview with yet another inspiring woman in entrepreneurship. I hope you guys loved that episode just as much as I did. Before we leave off, if you yourself are also a woman entrepreneur, I would love for you to consider joining our Empowered by Women directory. We're looking for women-owned product and service-based businesses in the US to help us build the go-to place for our communities to find local women to shop with and connect with, and we'd love for you to be a part of it. All of the details can be found on www.empoweredbywomen.com/apply-directory. Of course, that's going to be linked in the show notes below, and you're also welcome to reach out to me anytime if you have any questions. But other than that, thank you again so much for joining us, and I will see you in the next episode.